Yeah, let's start with it. I mean, 40 years. Can you? I've just come off the phone with Mark Barham, and he said the same. It's like he can't believe it was that long ago, and to him it feels like yesterday. So I'm sure for you, it's probably quite similar.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it was last week, maybe, because we had one get together, one anniversary, and I think it must have been the 30th. Yeah, it must have been 10 years ago, that we we all got together. So that was good, But that's gone in a flash as well. But yeah, you're right. It's hard, You think, God, the game. What do you remember? There's only bits and pieces. Strange. Well, I saw. What was it the other week? A pal of mine phoned me up. It was this afternoon morning, about 10 or 11 o'clock, and he said, I've just seen you score a header on, I think it was, the match of the day, or the match remember, the big match remember,
yes.
That was it.
Yeah.
And, so it was this afternoon morning. He said, you just scored a great header. I said, what? He says, yeah. He said, at Main Road against Oushes. I said, careful. I said, I had no recollection whatsoever. And especially scoring headers, I know I scored 2 or 3, but, it's not as if I was doing it week in, week out, scoring headers, So I eventually managed to see it, and I thought, Jesus, your memory plays.
It does, yeah. And I guess the fact that, it's still being spoken about and people still want to speak about it after 40 years probably shows how big an achievement it was. Obviously, Norwich haven't won a major trophy since that point. So I guess in many ways it's kind of a bittersweet one, because you want Norwich to win more trophies, but equally it's the fact they haven't means that this one is still so special.
And it's obviously now, the other clubs, the big clubs are getting richer and richer and moving. So it's going to be so hard, if not impossible, for the likes of Norwich to win another cup. Because at that time, both of us ended up getting relegated. Norwich and Sunderland. You think you just can't see that happening now in any FA Cup final or the League Cup final these days. It's a shame. I mean, I said it. The guy is trying to organise this get together, a dinner, and I said, "Well, I can't remember when will Norwich be able to compete at that level again?" It's just such a shame. But obviously, made it a great day for the fans. That particular match.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of said earlier you can remember bits and bobs of it. What are the moments that really stand out that you can really remember from that day?
Well, the goal, how Dixie, John Dean sort of chased. I don't know if it was one of the centre backs, probably Steve Bruce or Dave Watson, just sort of punted the ball forward, and it was going in the corner flag, and it was a young defender who was shepherding it out, and he should have just given away a throw-in, he should have just kicked the ball out for a Norwich throw-in, but he dallied it, and John Dean chased it right into the corner flag and retrieved it, and that's where it came from. He came back. I think he gave it to Mick. Yeah, he gave it to Mick, and the ball squirted out to me, and I hit it with my right foot, side foot, and it just cannoned off. Well, it's been kind if you say his chest. I think it was his backside, or but that was it. So that's if your luck's in, your luck's in.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because again, spoke to Mark a minute ago, and he said it was definitely your goal, and I think we've always credited it as your goal, and to Norwich fans it is your goal, but officially it's kind of goes down as an own goal. And I think nowadays, because it was on target, it would have been counted as your goal. So. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, even then, that seemed to be the rule, but they did. That was one of the things as we're lining up, waiting for Sunderland to kick off. After the goal had been scored, you looked at the scoreboard and it had Norwich 1, Sunderland 0, goal scorer, and I thought, oh, my name's going to be up in lights here. And then it went Chisholm OG, and I thought, oh dear, because Shannon came up to straight after the game, he said, and he's Hampshire Burr, are you going to cry? You're going to claim that goal, blah blah blah, I said, well, I don't know. And he said, well, if you don't, I effing will, so. Because players could do that back then, that you didn't have the technology. There's many a game I've scored. No, I've not scored. The team say at Manchester City, Brian Kidd was probably the most guilty one for doing that. He'd run away with both arms raised, and you think, hang on, he's never touched it. It's not gone in. He's just claiming. If it's an own goal, he's claiming it. But as I say, now you got, you can pinpoint who, if it was going on target or not. So that was quite strange.
I mean, is it something that is, I don't know, if bothered's the right word, because I mean, you won the cup, and I'm sure that's the most important thing to you. But is it sort of in the years, it's like, it's a shame that it wasn't credited to me, or is it something that you're fairly relaxed about?
No, I'm not. No, it doesn't bother me. I was there, and we won, and that was the main thing. So no, it's not. It's not that I'm going to write to the FA or the Football League. Yeah.
I mean, I guess to Norwich fans, they know it was your goal, and that's probably one of the most important things, right, in terms of that day and how it all unfolded. But as you said, it's all very well and good scoring or not scoring, but it's about winning it. So the fact that you were involved in the goal, at least we can say that, you won the game. That must make it all the more special.
It does, yeah, and I think we deserved it. Well, I'm pretty sure we deserved it. It was from what. Memories I do have, it was like competitive, as most games were then, really sort of competitive. And but I think overall we were the better footballing team. I don't want to disparage, Sunderland, but I thought we were better on the day, and probably deserved to win. We had a couple of other chances. There was one of the other members of it, they almost scored in the first minutes. I can't think who it was. They had a shot, it just dipped over the bar, but it was definitely dipping. And you think that, your heart's in your mouth, hoping that it does, and it just flew over the bar. So there was, there was chances. We had chances. They had chances. And Gary Bennett, he played the centre back for Sunderland, and I know his brother Dave Bennett played for Coventry and scored when they beat Spurs, wasn't it, in the cup final? But later, when we both finished, like we played in charity teams together, Gary Bennett, so always had to remind him,
And I mean, obviously, they missed a penalty as well. So when you think about the shot in the first minute, you think about the missed penalty. I guess the goal, the deflection, taking it in and whatnot. I guess it probably did just feel like your day, like Norwich's day.
That's right. Small margins indeed, isn't it? With was that the first? I think that was the first penalty missed at Wembley. I think you're right. Yeah, and it was. Another thing that I remember to this day about just before the penalty, was given with Dennis Van Wyck handball, and the referee Neil Misley. I got to know him about it as well later on in life. Midge give the penalty, correctly, but just in a second or two after it had been given, the ball broke. After Dennis had handled it, and I could see Hodgson was the guy, Dave Hodgson. Him and I had a bit of a running battle during the game, and I thought, he's going to have a free hit here, because the ball broke between us, and I was able to get to it, just to touch it round him, like kick it away, basically, before, and then I jumped to get out of the way of his tackle, because it was, the ball, the referee stopped the game, but it was just, like the 2 or 3 seconds after it, I thought, he's getting a free hit here, so I had to touch the ball and jump out of the way. So that was that. But it doesn't mean much to anybody, but I thought, because we'd had a bit of a Barney going on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what can you remember about the full-time whistle going and the celebration? I mean, was it relief? Was it euphoria? Was it a combination of...
I think because they'd put us... I think it was relief towards the end, because they'd come back at us. And it just seemed... It was over on that far side... the referee was sort of around the byline, in line with the goal line, and it seemed a strange place to finish the game, because the ball was, I think it had just been cleared from our box. I think that was it. Because it's. I do remember that, and then that was it. I'm probably a relief because we're knackered. Like Shannon and myself, anyone else, have 2 or 3 of us have, classed as veterans.
I mean, on that point, I'm right in saying, isn't it, that was the second one that you'd won. You'd won with Manchester City as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I mean, was it as special, more special? I mean, what was the second time like compared to the first?
I think with Norwich, because at the age, what would it be, 30 and 85, be 30, 34, chances are slim of getting to cup finals, at that age. And so I think I appreciated it more. But I'd actually, because I'd played one in 1970, I played for West Bromwich Albion against Manchester City, and we lost at West Brom. Manchester City won that one. And then I played for Manchester City when we beat Newcastle. So I think I'm right to say I'm the only one that's played in 3 different League Cup finals.
Is that right?
You get played. I think so. Yeah, yeah. I think that came up somewhere last year. And so the fact that I played when I was 19 at Wembley, you don't think you're going to be playing it in your mid-30s sort of thing. So it was. It was soured, obviously, at the end of the season when we got relegated, but you can't take away the thrill of winning the cup at Wembley.
And playing at Wembley and having however many Norwich fans it was, I'm sure you had lots of family and friends in the crowd as well. It must have been, a really special occasion to not just when the goal went in, but the full-time whistle as well, the roar, the feeling around it. That must have been so special.
Yeah, it is satisfying, but it goes quickly. People when I was younger playing, people say take it in, because it goes really quick, and it does, so you do appreciate it then. The older you become, and still lucky enough to be part of a winning side. So that was, it was great. And I think, for Norwich, because, they're not, so I suppose, especially nowadays, Manchester City and the bigger clubs are expected to win, but the likes of Norwich, it was great for the underdog,
And I mean, in terms of Ken and Mel, I mean, how much did you enjoy playing under those two, and how did they approach the final as well? Because I think Mark said you played Sunderland pretty soon before that game and lost 4-1. So I can imagine in many ways that must have been, I don't know, does that give you more nerves? Does it help you? I don't know.
I think it helps you because they had obviously beaten us fairly easily. Is it 2 or 3 weeks before? But the two of them were good. Ken is a good guy. He's I'm not saying that because he's poorly now, and Mel as well. But at the time, Ken was a good guy. Mel was like it was like good cop, bad cop. Like Mel was the enforcer. Like discipline. But he was good. Mel was good. It's a shame I've not been. He's been poorly for a number of years. So it is. But I remember. I mean, Mel would be like not down at all. But that on that side, if you like. But he was also good because he'd played the game. Both of them had played the game, and they have that respect. From that standpoint. If this didn't hopefully goes ahead, then hopefully Ken will be well enough to attend,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, in terms of that dinner, I mean, to ask you a bit about that, how much are you looking forward to that being back, obviously, and seeing some of those people that were involved? I don't know how recently you've been back to Carrow Road, but you must be really looking forward to that element to it. Yeah,
it's been a couple of years. I went back. What's his name? Trevor Saunders. He was goalkeeper, and it was a dinner of football against dementia.
Yes,
I think it was 2 years ago. So I went back. That was good. And because there was a dinner, and then the guys who couldn't attend, or ex-players, not. I don't just mean ex-players that I played with, but other guys that are part of Norwich's history and all that. They'd send in videos, and it was good because I was at the dinner and I heard that Hampshire boys, and I thought I'd turn around, Shannon's on the television, with this video apologising for everything. Yeah, it is nice to catch up. Cause, I live in Blackburn. I live on my own. I've got kids and grandkids, and I'm always busy. But I don't often see a lot of ex-players, guys that I played with. So this would be a great opportunity, to catch up with them.
And when you have seen those guys over the years, I can imagine this is something that comes up quite regularly, and it must be a bond that sort of all of you have, even now, even so long after it happened, the fact that you still have that connection with those people must be really nice.
It's good. It is good. I phoned Dave Watson. He was the captain on the day, about this dinner, and I didn't have his number because you lose track of people. Not got any of the ex-players. So I've been given a few, and I'd sent him a great big long text. So I was saying, what was it I said? Straight away on the text I just put, "Hi Dave, it's Asa Hartford here," or as you seem to prefer, it's Richard. Because if he answers, or he used to answer the phone to me or speak to me, he'd call me Richard because it's my first name, but nobody knows it. You know what I mean? So that's something. So the first thing he said, "Hello, Richard," And then you're straight back into it. Yeah, so it's great. It's good to catch up because we're all 40 years. You're all getting older. So. And sadly, John Dean won't be there, and he was the one, I said, that made the goal. It's a shame that he won't be there. But I keep in touch. I speak to John Devine. He was a sub. Occasionally, we text more. John's back in Ireland. I don't know where, but he is. He's back in Ireland. So I keep in touch. I think it was last year, 2 years ago, I was able to, he was talking about, or we were talking about, good players at that, and he mentioned Liam Brady. I said, "Oh, John," I said, "you've got to," I think he was either in his company or he'd just been in his company and all that. I said, we apologise to him. Because I remember, for some misdeed that I did, 40 years ago or something, And they came back the next day and says, "Oh, yeah," I said, "forget it, you were a great player, blah, blah," So that, so I suppose that I've not really been in touch with Liam Brady, but between John Devine I have, So I was able to apologise for some,
That's good. That is good. Yeah. How much do you remember of the civic reception that happened afterwards and being on the bus and with all the fans? I can imagine there was a few sore heads, or maybe it hadn't got to the stage yet where there were sore heads. But how much do you remember about that day and all those people on the streets of Norwich?
I remember it, and I just dreaded. I thought, "Crap," because we're up there at the town hall, the town hall of the civic, And I thought, "Oh God, please don't stick a microphone under my nose," That's more, the worry that you might have to say something in front of people. But it was great. It was great being on the bus. And actually, it was funny because that football against dementia dinner, we travelled back to Norwich on the bus, the original bus, the old-fashioned bus.
Yeah.
So. Funnily enough, I'll have to get a picture of that because I've got 7 grandchildren, and my youngest daughter, she's got 3 boys. The twin boys are 6, and the other boy's 8, and they love football and all that. So if I was to show them that bus, they would just kill themselves. Old fashioned. It's quite. But it was brilliant and great for the town. Obviously, I think.
Yeah,
but I used to have to travel down. I lived in Cheshire at the time, and because I joined in September, I played for Manchester City, and then I was released, and I went to the States and played for 5 months in Fort Lauderdale. It wasn't. There used to be a team called Fort Lauderdale Strikers, but they had disbanded, and this was a new Fort Lauderdale Sun. They were called. So I went out there. It was like a holiday and getting paid.
Yeah.
So it was great because that previous season I'd had the only time that I had a bit of an injury that kept us out for a month or two, an ankle injury. So it was great to get fit. I played about 28, 30 games in the States, and then I came back and I had no club to go to. So a pal a guy that I played with, had become an agent, and he must have spoke to Ken. I don't know for sure. He must have done it, and then that's how I turned up at Norwich. I think it was a monthly contract, and it just signed that. Yeah, it was really. I'm sure it was a monthly contract, or at the most, it was definitely just to the end of that season. That would. But I think I would have had to have signed every month. But so that meant there was I had to travel. So if there was if the games were Saturday, I would train. I'd stay up in the northwest. Excuse me, and I used to train at either Oldham or Manchester United because I knew the guy who took the reserves at Manchester United was a guy called Brian Whitehouse, and he'd been the first team coach at West Brom when I was there years before. So he would let me go into United and train with the reserves. Or Joe Royal was a manager at Oldham, and either. So it was good. It would never happen these days. You wouldn't be able to do that. And then I'd travel down on a Wednesday morning. Leave my house in Winslow 4 o'clock. And then I used to travel. I had a Ford Fiesta, which I had a hairdryer that had a bigger engine than the car. My God. I used to do like a 4-hour journey, whichever way you looked at it,
Yeah, it's a long way, isn't it? It's a long way.
Oh, I've tried every different.
I bet. Am I right in saying as well, sort of 10 years ago or ish, you came back to Norwich as a scout? Is that right? And
yes, I did. Yeah, with
was that with Chris Hughton?
Yeah, Chris. But the guy who was oh my God, what's his name? He's just going. Guys, oh my God, he'll kill me. Chris Hughton's.
Oh, is it Chester? I can't remember his first name.
Yes, Ewan
Chester.
Yeah. Jesus, yeah. He used to be at Rangers, and then he worked with Chris at different clubs. Yeah, so I did that. Yeah, that was. It probably is about 10 years because it was all right. Yeah.
I mean, did that allow you to sort of get hands-on, or was it one of these where you were sort of away from the club and sort of spent?
I wasn't. I was never. You're not at the club. You just watch games and then come back and do reports online and stuff like that. And send it in like that. Or I'd probably speak to you and rather because the managers. Chris is a nice guy as well, but he's the managers have got 50 people wanting to talk to them and. Oh God, I don't know how they do it, like with agents and
Me neither. No, me neither.
Yeah. Oh, you're getting pestered right, left, and centre.
But I'm sure that was nice for you when the opportunity came to go back to Norwich. Even though you weren't there, it must have been nice to be sort of still involved with the club.
Yeah, that's right. It was, and I met what's the lady who owns them. Delia,
yeah.
Who used to? I don't know who owns them now, but I met her in a couple because there was one of the games I went to. They were playing at Wigan. That was it. Norwich were playing up at Wigan, and I met up with them and had lunch. So that was nice. Just to catch up with 2 or 3 of them. Although I dare say the boardroom's different nowadays. People.
It's 40 years. I mean, can you believe that? I bet in some ways it feels like yesterday.
Yeah, it does. Well, I think nearly all the boys will remember the day pretty much as it went, really. But 40 years seems a long time, I've got to say. But obviously we're still proud of what we've done.
Yeah, and I guess the fact that it still gets spoken about today, and it's obviously still the last major tournament that the club won. I guess it's still pretty special, isn't it? Probably as special now as it was back then.
I think so. I mean, all the fans would be in exactly the same way. I would have thought, that our first ever major trophy, and obviously we've won divisional medals, but never a major trophy, and we haven't won one since. So, I think the euphoria is still there, really.
Yeah, it must be really strange because obviously, clearly, all of us would have liked Norwich to have won another one, but in many ways, it makes it more special that they haven't. In a way, it makes that one feel even more special, I guess. So it's kind of a bittersweet sort of thing, isn't it? Really, when you look back on it.
It is really, because you think that you will push on once you've made your first major trophy. Obviously, to us, that was just something completely and utterly special, but you expect the club to perhaps push on and maybe get one or two more, and it's been a shame that we've never really capitalised on that and made another one, really.
Your memories of the day then, is there anything that when you think back to it really stands out in your mind? I can imagine there's probably so much, but is it one of those where you can remember a lot of the day, you can remember sort of bits of it? I
think you remember most of the day was rememberable, from the time you walk out onto the pitch with 40,000+ Norwich City fans was just special. We played them the week before and they beat us 4-1 at home. So we were a little bit nervous, obviously, to play them again, but we felt we couldn't play as badly as we did the week before. During the game, I had 2 or 3 good chances, and one of my abiding memories was, a minute, 2 minutes to go when the ball was crossed in, and I hit a volley from the outside of the box, and it just went over the bar. That would have been nice if it had gone in, because everybody dreams of scoring at Wembley. But also that wasted a few extra seconds for us to get nearer and nearer to the whistle blowing and us winning.
And that moment, as you say, where you walk out at Wembley and you've got that sea of yellow and green and all of those fans there. I mean, that must have been a feeling that even now you sort of, I don't know, maybe is it a feeling that you've ever had again walking out like that? Was it so nervous that you were unable to take it in? I mean, what was that like? Because obviously most of us won't ever get to do that, unfortunately.
I think the hair still stands on your back of your neck when you even think about it. So you can imagine how bad it was on that day when you're walking over, and it's a long walk from the changing rooms across the sandy track and all the sand and everything else to get to the pitch. So it took a little bit of a time, but that time gives you fantastic memories, because you get all that time to have a look around and you can see everything that's going on.
Was it nerves? Was it excitement? Was it a mixture of the two as a player? Because I can imagine any final really, because of how big they are, and particularly at Wembley, particularly in front of all of those people, feel massive anyway. So yeah, sort of, can you remember how you felt on that day walking out and during the game as well? And at what point did you maybe settle a little bit?
I think I was always fine on a match day. I was more nervous the night before, because you sort of think about what's going to go on the next day. But once you actually walk onto the pitch, you're changed, you're ready to go, and the whistle goes. Everything stops in your head, and you do what you do what you're good at, and that's what was the most exciting part, was when you're playing, actually getting to play the whole 90 minutes at Wembley was. It's a dream for most football players. So, and to run out in the Twin Towers, which was such a shame that they're not there anymore. It was just a gift, really. It was, and I enjoyed every second.
And what about your memories of the goal? Talk me through that, because I can imagine your position on the pitch would have been very unique as that went in, and the feelings afterwards.
Well, I was actually right behind Asa when he hit it. So we'd knocked it. We were under a little bit of pressure, and someone knocked it in over the top of Venison, I think. And he tried to let it go out, and Dixie come from nowhere about 30 yards away, and from his blind side, flicked it through his legs and went across the byline, pulled it back to Mickey Shannon, who got tackled in the box, and it rolled out to Asa, and he hit, what was a good shot, which was going in, but obviously hit Gordon Chisholm and shot in the other side of the goal. Not that we were bothered at the time, but I think Asa would have got Asa would have been given the goal now, because it was on target. So, but when it did, it was quite weird, because we all ran to Dixie rather than running to Asa. So, But Dixie made the goal, and Asa's will always be held that we'll always hold him for the one that scored the goal that won the cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And clearly, you had to ride out some pressure as well, the penalty in the second half and all of that. So, I mean, what stage did it really enter your mind of, we could win this, or we're close, or did it never until that sort of final whistle went, really?
Well, I don't think you can ever say that you're going to win, but we did feel like we were pretty comfortable. Obviously, the penalty was just sort of out of the ordinary on the day for something that Dennis probably still couldn't even tell you why he done it. He's rolling away from the ball and he just stuck his arm out. And but then you'd have to say that Chrissy Woods would probably have saved it if it had been inside the post. So we never really felt under pressure during the game. But you have to play the whole 90 minutes. So you can never count it until that whistle goes.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I've got to ask you about Ken. I mean, how did he sort of leading into the game? How did he set you up? What was his approach to it? Because clearly, whatever he said, it worked, and you said it. You went from losing 4-1 against them to beating them 1-0. So did he play on that a little bit? Did he ignore it? I mean, what was his approach before the game?
Yeah, I think between Ken and Mel Machin, we sort of had a nice man, bad man relationship with the two, and Ken was more obviously the nicer man, and he spent all week trying to build us up, and obviously I was hoping that I was going to play because I'd been out for quite a long period of time, and he was trying to build every player up to make sure that they were ready to go, and Mel was saying to us, you can't play as bad this week as you played last week, and get your heads on. And this is the most important thing you'll ever do. And let's go out there and make sure that we do everything we should do. And if we do that, we'll probably come away with a win.
And did it help, do you think, the fact that you played them the week before and whatnot? Is that something that you guys as players used? As you say, I can imagine there probably was an element of nervousness, but then I guess you also kind of knew what to expect and what was coming from Sunderland.
Yeah, and I think that the one thing we did do during the week was work on making sure that Dave Hodgson was not allowed to roam like he did the week before, which we did quite well, although he just dipped one over the bar after about a minute. But after that, I think we held him and the likes of Clive Walker and that to a minimum attacking threat, where we were, or we felt we were quite a big attacking threat.
How much were you aware as a player at the time of the friendliness, I guess, between the fans? It's clearly something that historically has been remembered. We've still got the friendship trophy that exists that was sort of born out of that fixture. Were you aware of that stuff going on the day as a player? Is it something that sort of came to light to you in the days afterwards? Although I can imagine they were maybe a bit busy for you, so maybe it would have been the weeks afterwards.
Well, we didn't really sort of. I mean, especially on the day, we realised how friendly the fans were together, playing football in the car park and things like that, and actually when we left, how they clapped us when we left and things like that, which was, they're devastated that they've just lost a trophy, and but they still had the foresight to clap us when we left, which was magnanimous. And out of that was born, it was called the friendly final, and then they made the cup to play for every year. And I thought that was a really good idea.
Yeah, and there's always been a really good relationship between the clubs because of that, hasn't there? And the fact that sort of stood the test of time, even now, is pretty pretty special, really, in terms of modern football. And we think about how tribal it is. It's nice that still exists. Yeah,
and I think both sets of fans are renowned as being football educated fans, and we've been lucky at Norwich to have such great fans, and I think they're lucky at Sunderland to have such massive amounts of great fans, and it's great for the two clubs to actually still be together, sort of thing.
When the final whistle went, I mean, what can you remember of that? Was it relief? Was it joy? Was it all of those things, I guess? And the celebrations afterwards. I mean, you see the pictures, you see some of the footage now. I mean, that must have been a hell of a thing to be involved in. Yeah, I mean, you're desperate for the final whistle to go, and then when it goes, you're not really sure whether you're supposed to run around jumping on people or whether you should just
pray on the floor or things like that. But yeah. I mean, I think we jumped about a bit, and then we sort of thanked everybody, thanked ourselves for making sure that we got where we wanted to go. Ken come running on the pitch. Mel was all over the place. And then you just looked at the fans around the stadium, and they were just up and down. It was awesome. And then you get to walk up the steps at Wembley, which not many people get to do. And we were able to do that.
At what stage for you did it sink in at what you done? Was it immediately? Was it sort of in the days afterwards where you sort of could sit back and go, wow, that really happened, and what a big achievement that was? Did it happen pretty quickly, or was it something that maybe has never happened? I don't know.
I think it was. I don't think it was on the day, because you were so euphoric that I think we were about 40 minutes walking around the pitch just to say thank you to the fans. And then obviously we had a little drink in the evening, and then perhaps to travel back, coming back into Norwich on the day afterwards, when all the fans were over bridges and things like that, when you're coming through, was just. I mean, I think that really settles at home that you've just won something, which was awesome.
And I mean, for you, you clearly achieved a lot in your career, playing for England, no less than that. I mean, where does it rank for you in terms of your career and all your achievements that day and winning that with Norwich City?
Well, I think obviously playing for your country is the one thing that you'll ever want to do. But at the end of the day, I was a club player, and Norwich City was my club. I still live in Norwich, and I still think that would probably be the number one thing in my career. I mean, obviously getting caps is just brilliant to play for your own country, and you would never belittle it. But for a Norwich City to win a major trophy it's got to be the highlight of your career.
And did you have a lot of family there on the day? Was it one where you had loads and loads of tickets and people there who were at the game that were obviously related to you and friends with you and whatnot? And did that make it more special?
Yeah, I think that did. I mean, let's be fair. In them days, we're still standing, and there was 90,000 tickets to be had. So I probably think it was around about 100 people that was at the game for me. Which you'd never get today. So it was just superb, and when you're doing it in front of your own family, that just makes it even more special.
And I mean, how special was that group of players? Because I can imagine when you achieve something like that, there is a bond that's formed between all of you, and I'm sure you've seen these guys throughout the years, and it's still spoken about and it's still mentioned. So as a group, how special was that?
Yeah, I think that in them days the camaraderie and team spirit between players at Norwich was just second to none, I think. And obviously we still talk to everybody that played in that game and in that run itself, because other people didn't get to make the final. And we had such a camaraderie, and we said we played together, we drank together, we ate together. It was just like that. And when you get to see them now, it's just like being back 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's some brilliant footage on YouTube, which I'm sure you've seen, of the reception at City Hall and with all of those people out. I mean, that must have been in many ways as surreal as the final, I guess, to have all of those people in the middle of Norwich celebrating what you guys had done, coming out to see you all. I mean, what's sort of your memories, if any? Because I can maybe appreciate that there were a few drinks had probably at that point. But what were your memories of that day and how special it was?
Well, we say abiding memory was it took about 3.5 hours to get around the old outer ring road. There was thousands upon thousands of fans, and it managed to dump on us for 3.5 hours. But we never sort of noticed the rain whatsoever. And honestly, when you pulled round into the city centre and saw the town hall and the market with 20, 30, 40,000 Norwich fans, was just special.
And I mean, obviously, to sort of bring this full circle, as you say, you're Norwich based and watch Norwich a lot. I guess what do you make of it currently and at the minute? Clearly, the game's changed and there's so much more money in it now, and it's a shame really that we don't see. I guess obviously Newcastle won it, which is great for them to end at a massive hoodoo, but we don't see the sort of change, do we? We don't see the different clubs winning those competitions as much anymore, and that feels like a little bit of a shame compared to maybe the 80s, the 70s, and whatnot, where there was a lot more differentiation between who won it and whatnot.
Yeah, I think in the game today, obviously the money talks, and the top six are always going to be the ones vying for the trophies, I believe. And it was nice to see Newcastle win the other day. When you talk about Newcastle, you think that's been 70 years since they won something, only 40 since we won something. So that was nice to see. And the game today is totally different, and they play on special pitches, and I'm not over enamoured with the play out from the back way to play a game of football, but it's technically some of the players are just amazing. Norwich have done exceptionally well with the amount of money that you've got to find all the time to be competing, and they're still competing, and I still think that we will have the chance to go back up into the Premiership. And going forward, they'll need to just be more consistent. Especially this year, we've shown that perhaps our squad is not as big as we thought it was, and when we get down to losing 3 or 4 of our best players, we're nowhere near as strong as we should be.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because it feels like we've seen almost, and that it's been the inconsistency, I think, isn't it, that's been frustrating, because we've seen this Norwich team at its very best when they score goals and they put 6 past Plymouth and all those big wins they've had at Carrow Road, and that side of them probably makes it as frustrating when they're not so good, because the fans and everyone else can see what this team is capable of. We just haven't probably seen it consistently enough this year.
Yeah, and every time that we've gone on a really good run, we've lost 2 or 3 of our best players. And what consequence comes from that is, you draw a couple and lose a couple, and then you lose the momentum that you already had. We've done it at least twice or maybe 3 times this season, where we've lost top players when we didn't really need to. And that's shown us that, perhaps we do need a 20-man squad that's as good as everybody else to get us where we need to go, which is, like everyone, we all want to be back in the Premiership.
Borja Sainz as well. I mean, it would be remiss of me not to ask you about him as a winger. What have you made of his season? It's been some goal scoring season for him, hasn't it?
It's been fantastic. I mean, the little fella is inspirational when you watch him play, and this year he's come out of his shell. And obviously the goals have gone in for him, and then just been, tap-in goals either, have they? They've just been special goals as well. And, I think that in itself shows you what it was like when we lost him for 6 games, what happens. And he's only just beginning to find his form again since we lost him. So we lost him really for 10, 11 games rather than 6. And, I hold him in the highest esteem. He's top goal scorer in the league. It's just, something you wouldn't expect from someone you didn't pay any money for. So it's amazing. So, all well to him. He's had a fantastic season for us.
Yeah, and I bet like most fans, you're worried with the summer coming up, and obviously last year of his contract, just how well he's done. I mean, there's bound to be interest in him, isn't there, this summer, you would think?
You'd be very surprised if there wasn't interest in him. And it just depends then on what the club can come up with, and whether, Morgan wants to further his career somewhere else or likes to stay here. I mean, at the end of the day, he's done exceptionally well here. He's a big player in a small pool, and he enjoys the football here. He gets a lot of the ball, and, if you go to a bigger club, that doesn't always happen for you.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Thanks, Mark.